Have you ever wondered why you can't relax even when nothing is wrong? Or why you constantly feel like you're waiting for something bad to happen? Or why peace sometimes feels uncomfortable? A lot of us assume it's anxiety. Some of us even have convinced ourselves that it's our personality. But I challenge you to think or to consider the fact that it may just be a conditioning. It may just be a programming, something you learned as a child, and you have just been automatically living your life in that way all along. Just like I used to think that I was just an impulsive person, that was my personality, that was my nature, until I learned that that was not the case at all. Since learning that, I have been able to significantly adjust and address the way I respond to circumstances in my life, expected and unexpected. I've also learned that it is okay to not respond to things immediately. You're not going to be punished. God nanga senior is what a lot of us as Jamaicans were told as children, that God going to sting you if you do this or that or whatnot, which was really just a fear tactic by older individuals in our environment to get us to conform. That was designed to get conformity out of us as children. But what they did not know, that ran deeper than just that moment. That psychological mindset that was instilled or that was used to instill conformity in us would go on to shape the person we became in the future, and would also determine how we respond to situations and just people and circumstances in our lives. Anyway, welcome back to the channel where truth is spoken, awareness is honored, and reprogramming is the mission. Welcome to Family Focused. What are we talking about today? Today we're talking about how growing up in emotional uncertainty trains the body to stay alert, and what it looks like as you move from childhood to adulthood. Now, have you ever wondered why you can't relax even with nothing going wrong? Or why you constantly feel like you're waiting for something bad to happen? Or just why peace sometimes feels uncomfortable? And this is mostly because your body learns before your mind understands. So a lot of times we do things just because, one, we're told to, two, because it's what we see others doing, and three, for whatever reason, just feel like doing it. But the truth of the matter is, in our mind, we don't really understand why we're doing it. We're just doing it because there's no deeper meaning to it for us, for the person doing it. A perfect example of this is when I attended school or high school. I didn't understand the reason I was going to school. What I knew was that I'm supposed to go to school because it's what you do. It's the progress of life. It's the journey. It's the life cycle. It's a part of your life cycle. So I went to school. I was going to school but I didn't understand the deeper meaning. I didn't understand how it connected to my future and how I was supposed to use this experience to set myself on a path to my goals and my dreams years later in my life. I did not understand that. So growing up, I used to always hear a saying that says you're going like a Johnny cake and come out like a flower or something to that effect. So that was my high school experience. Yeah, sad, but it is very true. So children don't have the ability to analyze their environment. They don't. They learn by observing their environment, observing the people in their environment. And so they watch for reactions and expressions, and they watch how it is said that to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So they pay attention to how they are responded to every time they take a certain action. And that's why children who throw tantrums will continue to throw a tantrum if every time they throw a tantrum they get what they want, because they've now understood that this particular behavior gets me that result. And that's how the training begins and the programming begins. So the body is constantly asking questions. Am I safe? Am I loved? Am I protected? Always, you're always, and you can feel the sensations in your body when you feel either safe, loved, or protected. Or the reverse. If you don't feel safe, if you don't feel loved, and if you don't feel protected, you can feel either the tension, the knot in your stomach, or just the freedom, the release, yeah. So your body tells you these things. The thing is, we are supposed to be taught how to pay attention to those different feelings so we can identify which one is associated with which. And many of us aren't. Many of us don't ever learn how to pay attention to our body. We only ever learn to do what we are told to do, what we are programmed. So we respond to things or we react to things based on the programming that was installed or based on what we were told that we needed to do. Yeah? So if every day your environment gives you different responses to the same action, then your body is going to adapt to that. And the body learns an uncertainty long before the mind can explain it. So if every day you're in a different environment, if every day you are getting different reactions, if every day, like for example, my personal experiences as a child, I would never know what's going to happen to me tomorrow or the next day or next week or whatever. Because I grew up with my aunt, my father's sister. And ever so often they would tell me, oh, I'm going to send you back to your father. I'm going to send you back to your home. I'm going to send you back or whatever because you're not behaving yourself or whatever. So, and it was always hanging over my head that any day now, tomorrow could be the day. Is tomorrow going to be the day that they send me back? And for whatever reason, I was made to feel like going back to my parents or going back to my father would have been a worse reality for me than staying with them. I guess we will never know. But what I will say, staying with them, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I would not wish it on anybody. I take the good things that I received from that environment, but there's still a big question mark because the one thing that all my siblings that grew up with my parents or with my mother or my father has today or had long before I had was confidence. All my siblings are in everything that they're doing. They possess a level of confidence and self-belief that I don't have. And yet, among all of them, you would say that I am the more educated one out of all of them. Except for my big brother that lives in Miami. But you would say that I am the more educated one out of all of them. Yet, all of them, I kid you not, are more confident in their day-to-day lives than I ever was. Not anymore, but yeah. So emotional uncertainty is different from physical danger. Parent is loving one day and distant the next. And let me say this, emotional uncertainty or emotional abuse is way different and more severe and more dangerous than physical danger. Because with physical danger, you feel the pain and it eventually goes away. It heals unless you probably lose a limb or whatever. And even if you lose a limb, the pain of losing the limb eventually goes away and you eventually learn to navigate life with one less limb or whatever. But when there's emotional and psychological abuse, that can cause significant mental, neurological, or just psychological disorders that you may spend your entire life living and not knowing that you have this psychological disorder or this neurological disorder. Like for persons who have ADHD and live their entire lives not knowing. And now, as I have recently discovered that I had been living in survival mode, which puts you at a significant handicap. Because one, it affects the lens through which you see life. It affects the way that you navigate life. It affects the way that you go through life, the way you make decisions, the way you choose things, the way you associate and the reason you associate with people and let people in your life. It affects all those things. But if you are not aware that you're living and functioning in survival mode, then you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. But if you have a physical injury, it's there, you can see it. You can, if you lose a leg, you know, okay, you're gonna need a crutch to help you to balance, and you can see the physical injury and you can address it. But when it's psychological or neurological, you can go your entire life and not knowing that it's present or it's there. And so rules constantly change. Affection depends on performance. You never know what mood someone is in, and that an environment like that has you feeling like you're suspended in outer space. You can't land anywhere, and when you do land, it's like you're looking, you know, you're not sure how to act, and because you're not sure how to act, you freeze. I call it mental paralysis, like, because I've had those moments where I don't know what action to take, and because I don't know what action to take and I don't want to make the wrong move or say the wrong thing, I am paralyzed. Not physically, but mentally paralyzed. So I don't move, I don't do anything, I don't talk. And then before you know it, somebody's shouting at you and tell you how you stand up looking like, and all type of things, or all type of names that they call you. So these things, these environments are just not healthy for children in terms of helping them to develop an identity and knowing who they are and growing into their own and becoming responsible and just understanding the capacity they have to become all that they've ever dreamed of becoming. As a matter of fact, to know that it is possible to dream big dreams and to have that, and the fact that it is possible to have those dreams come to reality, to live their dreams. It is possible. So nothing may appear wrong externally, but internally, the child is always scanning. Always. The nervous system learns, I need to stay alert, because you're not sure if today's the day they're going to send you back to your parents. You're not sure if, you know, you talk too loud, you're going to get a box. You're not sure if you don't speak up loud enough, you're also going to get a box. Or it's just, you know, you don't know. So hypervigilance becomes normal. In my case, it became impulsiveness. I was very impulsive. Like I'm ready to go. Being impulsive is good. Being impulsive is good. Just like being a narcissist is good. But everything in life has to be done in moderation and has to be done in a healthy amount, a healthy dose of the thing. You can't just, it has to be done in a healthy dose, because if you don't believe in yourself, which speaks to being narcissistic, if you don't believe in yourself to a certain extent, then no one else is going to believe in you. If you don't believe you can do it, then nobody's going to believe it. So you have to have a healthy amount of narcissism about you in order to survive in this world, right? So a healthy amount of impulsiveness, a healthy amount of impulsiveness is now called assertiveness. But when assertiveness is overdone or becomes unhealthy, then it becomes impulsiveness. I was impulsive. I used to just jump and say yes to everything and just do it, and I'm gone without even considering or knowing whether or not it aligned with what I wanted. But I just didn't know better, because programmed in me was to avoid danger, was to avoid disapproval, was to avoid somebody not liking you, was to avoid being sent back to the place they made me feel like was such a hell, right? So over time, this hypervigilance, this impulsiveness became who I was, and I started to identify with it, and I started to think that this is just my personality. Yeah. So the child develops a survival skill. So one of my main survival skill was impulsiveness, being impulsive, because that's how you stayed out of danger. That's how you avoided somebody not liking you, and that's how you avoided being shouted at. Anticipating problems before they happen, that is something I'm very good at. No, not necessarily in my own life, for me personally, but for others. I can, in 0.00 second, I can tell if somebody is about to do something bad, or if they have done something bad. I can look at a group of children and tell which child in that group is being molested or neglected, which usually is one in the same. If a child is being neglected, 95% chance that child is also being molested. I will jump into that in another video. So the next thing is, the problem is that the body doesn't know childhood ended, because here's what: God, in all his wisdom and his sovereignty, didn't allow us to be born as adults. We came into this life as children because we have to go through a process, and through that process we go through different stages of learning. And so we learn different things. We are supposed to learn at each stage. We're supposed to learn something that helps our mind to grow and develop a little bit more, that takes us into the next stage. For those of you who play video game, same principle, same concept. And with each stage, you're supposed to get better, become more aware, become more responsible, and just more knowledgeable. That's how it's supposed to be. This is a powerful point. The environment changes, but the programming remains. So now as an adult, you are an adult in body and you're an adult in age, but in mind, you're still a child. And that programming is still operating. So now as an adult, you overthink, and this is now how all those programming will now present themselves as overthinking, as you struggle to trust people, you feel responsible for everything, you have difficulty relaxing, and the body is still operating from old instructions. Your body is still operating from old instructions. So the danger may be gone, but the alert system is still running. The programming is still running. And so my programming ran for a very long time, because I lived a lot of my life into adulthood being impulsive, note of certain important details and taking into consideration certain important facts and certain important details. I just was on the go, because I thought that that's how I needed to be. So I was moving a lot, I was doing a lot, but I wasn't accomplishing anything because my actions were not intentional. My actions were not meaningful. My actions weren't tied to a mission or a goal. My actions were basically me running away from a certain outcome, but I wasn't running towards anything. And there are a lot of us in life who find ourselves in that situation, because your parents tell you, say, oh, you're not gonna come to nothing and whatever. You're doing everything in your power to not let that come through. So you're running from that, but what are you running towards? For a long time, I was running towards anything. I was just running away from something, but not towards anything. Yeah. So why calm can feel uncomfortable? So after you've lived your life for so many years in chaos and impulsiveness and hypervigilance and whatnot, and now you probably end up in a situation or a relationship where there is peace, and you are not used to peace. Your nervous system is just used to chaos and hypervigilance and impulsiveness and all of that. So now you find yourself in a relationship with someone who brings a certain amount of structure, stabilization, and peace. That is going to feel boring to a person who has lived their entire life in chaos and hypervigilance. So when peace arrives, many people think they want peace. But when peace arrives, they create problems. You seek drama where drama doesn't exist. You overwork even when it's not necessary. You just can't sit down, you can't sit still, because as a child, you weren't allowed to do that. Sitting still meant getting in trouble. Sitting still meant you were doing something wrong and you're going to be punished for it. So you had to keep working, keep moving, just be busy. And so you become restless. Why? Because calm feels very unfamiliar. The nervous system often prefers what is familiar over what is healthy. And when I learned that, when I understood that, it was a game changer for me. And it still is, because I'm still learning and still understanding and still implementing that. So that it's not because it feels familiar, because we have a tendency to say, oh no, I'm familiar with this. No man, this me used to. and then we go with that because we're familiar, because we're used to it. But it doesn't always mean safety. It just means that that's the programming that you have come to know and have gotten used to throughout your life, which in most cases is very unhealthy. Survival skills are not personality traits. They're just that, just an intellectual system that your body, your mind created to keep you safe, to prevent you from jumping off a cliff somewhere or hanging from a rope somewhere or something. So you're not naturally anxious, you're not naturally controlling, you're not naturally defensive, you're not naturally suspicious. It's not who you are. It's who you became because of your environment. Because of your environment. So many of these behaviors started as adaptations to keep you safe in the environment that you grew up in. And I want us to understand. This is what I want us to understand. If you grew up in an environment that was less than healthy and supportive and loving, and you were provided for and catered to, the personality that you developed in that environment, it's not who you are. Those are coping mechanisms that you developed that became your personality, that you adapted to in order to survive the environment. So what helped you survive is not who you truly are. If you had to survive your environment and you weren't thriving in your environment. It is said that the road to hell is filled with good intentions. So there are our parents, there are our guardians, there are our family members, and we love them. There are our friends and we love them. But somebody's good intention is not necessarily or won't always be in your best interest. No. So what awareness of this does, it creates choice. The goal isn't blame, the goal is awareness. Once you understand why your system operates this way, you stop judging yourself. You stop labeling yourself as broken or that you need healing, because there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to switch out the programming. Expose yourself to some positive programming, some positive ways of being and living life to help you to switch out that programming. And you'll be fine. You start creating new experiences of safety. You move from automatic reactions to intentional choices. So in my case, and I've been able to significantly reduce my impulsive nature. One, by realizing that I'm not an impulsive person. The impulsiveness that I lived by for so many years was just something I had to do in order to survive my environment. So now I know that it is okay to say to somebody, no, I don't want to. No, I am not interested. No, this doesn't work for me. No, I do not like it. Or, I need time to think about this. Let me get back to you. Not right now. I'm not interested. Not right now. This is not for me. Or, just don't respond at all. It is okay. All of those things are okay to do. They're all okay to do. But when you grow up in an environment where you are threatened as a child with ass whoopings, with being sent back to wherever, with a myriad of things, just chores, or just bad treatment in general, unhealthy treatment in general, then you are quick to jump and do the things because you want to avoid all of these consequences that you are being threatened with. So you become hyper vigilant and you try to avoid having those negative experiences where, as a child, in the moment that those things are happening, can feel very heavy and makes you very, very sad. And it's just heartbreaking that children have to have those experiences. So one of the most important realizations in life, just because your body learned to stay alert doesn't mean you must stay alert forever. The patterns that protected you as a child may no longer be necessary as an adult. Awareness is the beginning of freedom, and freedom begins the moment you realize that hypervigilance, people pleasing, which are some of the most common ones, was something you learned, and it's not who you are. And you don't need to. You no longer need to be that way. You no longer need to live from those things that you learned. You no longer need to be that person. hold on to that personality. You don't. No matter what station in life you find yourself. Let me tell you something. My mother, as miserable as she is, and even though she's what we would call back in the day a domestic helper, you cannot take certain liberties with her. No. And I love and respect that about my mother. So no matter what station you find yourself in life, just know that you are able to choose. You're able to say no. You're able to say fuck off. You are able to say that. And don't let anybody try to program you into anything different. You are allowed to. You have permission to. Don't let anybody frighten you into doing or saying or accepting anything that you don't want. Don't let anybody use fear to program you to become somebody you are not, just to please them for their benefit. Don't do it. This is not going to help you. And you are worthy of everything that you think you are worthy of. And if you don't know what you're worthy of, leave your environment and go out into the world and see what other people are experiencing. And maybe, just maybe, that will ignite something in you and remind you of the dreams you once had. Alright? So remember, on this program, this channel, reprogramming is the mission. Survival mode is who you had to be to get from one stage to the next. Now, at this stage, you don't need to live in survival mode anymore. You can choose the life that you want, the life that you deserve. You can choose. So thank you so much for watching. And if this resonated with you, it's not because you're broken, it's because you are waking up. And thriving begins where awareness starts. So let's continue to heal this nation, one child at a time. And I'd like to say hi to all of you who engage with my content, and to my now 473 subscribers. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.